Over Oops, sorry, I just hit record. So let me start that over again. My name is Krista Dillabaugh, and I'm the director of the Morpho Institute. We're delighted to have all of you with us tonight to answer your questions and also to just hear from myself and some of our alumni and some of our faculty about our field programs. So I'm just going to jump right in so we can get through this, and we'll try to keep it at an hour, no more than that, with some time for Q&A at the end. So, what is the Morpho Institute? We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We were actually founded in 2018, although we've been doing this work for nearly 30 years. And we were created because we believe that education is a really powerful tool when it comes to conservation. And we also believe that education is going to be what it takes to save the Amazon. So at the Morpho Institute, our work focuses on three primary areas: K-12 professional development, which is the field programs we're going to be talking about tonight, classroom connections and resources, and then conservation education in the Amazon with our Amazon partners. Our network contains or has over 300 alumni from our field programs. Because like I said, we've been doing this for quite a while, and that also includes all of our faculty and our guides. So if you choose to join us in the field next summer, you're going to become part of that extensive network. And we like to say that if you join a field program, it's not just 10 days in the Amazon, you're in this community for life. So let's start with just a little bit of background and why the Amazon. It's kind of a key feature, a main feature of why we do the work that we do. So the Amazon, as you probably are well aware, is a critically important global resource. It makes up about 50% of the world's remaining rainforest. It stores and sequesters extensive amounts of carbon, so it's critical in the fight against climate change. It actually regulates regional and global climate, and it even drives weather systems, sometimes as far away as North America. It's a huge, huge landmass. This dark green all the way, in this part of South America, that's the size of it. So roughly the size, a little bit larger than the continental United States. Geopolitically, 9 countries are responsible for its conservation. So it is a very complex and amazing, massive ecosystem on the continent of South America. In addition, it's a huge, massive watershed. The Amazon stores or contains 20% of the world's flowing fresh water. It's the largest watershed in terms of discharge. So even though the Amazon is about the size of the continental United States, it discharges 11 times the volume of the Mississippi. So it's just a huge, big, watery, water-driven ecosystem. In addition, the biodiversity is absolutely amazing. These photos right here are just 6 little snapshots of images that were taken actually by our participants. It is a biodiversity hotspot. More than 10% of the known plant and animal species on the earth exist here. Roughly, that's about a third of all terrestrial species. Fun fact, and there's lots of them, but if you just consider like what 2 forested acres look like, you can have more trees in the Amazon in those 2 forested acres than you would find in all of North America, US and Canada combined. And that's just one little factoid to consider when we talk about the biodiversity that we find in the Amazon. So all of these are compelling reasons to go explore the Amazon from an ecological and biodiversity perspective. But another key factor that we investigate in our field programs is this relationship of the people to the Amazon. We are very fortunate to partner with the indigenous Mayahuna of Peru. And the research, and I realize this map is probably impossible for you to read, but what it's actually showing is that there's a very tight correlation between in lands that are managed by indigenous groups and biodiversity. The levels of biodiversity remain high in indigenous controlled lands. So part of our field experience is working with and supporting our indigenous partners that are doing that hard work of conservation in the Amazon in real time, and it's happening right now. And yet, as we know, the Amazon keeps showing up in the headlines. Fires are a frequent news flash. There's lots of talk about when the Amazon is going to reach a tipping point. And on the climate side of things, it's certainly part of the global biodiversity extinction crisis. And yet it's a critically important resource. So here at the Morpho Institute, as educators, Morpho was founded by educators, and our faculty all have background in education as well. Our big question that we grapple with every day is, what's our role? What is our role as educators and as a conservation education organization in in being a part of the solution for saving the Amazon? So our answer is education, and our answer is inquiry-based field programs for K-16 educators. And that's why for the last 20, 30 years, we've been taking teachers to the Amazon on these field programs. So we're really excited to share with you and dig into the details of what these field programs are really like. But first, a quick little brief history of the educators in the Amazon. Actually, the first educator workshops were started in 1992. And then the first educator academy in the Amazon, Morpho's first PD program, was actually launched in 2013. Then in 2018, we actually formalized Morpho as a 501c3 nonprofit, and we've just moved forward from there, with the exception of 2 years when we were unable to travel due to COVID. 2022 was the 10th year of the Educator Academy, so that program has been going on for over a decade now. And then in 2023, we launched the Amazon Research Initiative, and that program is taking off as well. So those are the two programs that I want to talk about with you tonight. I'll skip through to this. So two programs, the Educator Academy and the Amazon, which has always run July 1st through the 10th. Every summer, and then the Amazon Research Initiative for Educators, which follows right on the heels of the Educator Academy, and that program runs July 11th through the 20th. So we're going to start with the Educator Academy and just walk you through some of the basics of that program so you can get a sense of what the difference is between these two programs. When you think about the Educator Academy, you think about a broad-based interdisciplinary program that's anchored in inquiry. And we like to say it's anchored in place-based inquiry. We are digging in deep and diving into that place, both ecologically as well as culturally. Lots of deep classroom connections. It's anchored around the idea of teachers and students doing field investigations. It incorporates a large dose of community-based conservation in working with our indigenous partners, the Maihuna, as well as some other nonprofit organizations we partner with in the Amazon. And this program is also aligned with the IUCN Education for Conservation goals, as well as the UN's Global Biodiversity Framework targets. So it's a really great introduction to inquiry and into field investigations, ideally suited for teachers who want to get a broad-based exposure to what the Amazon and the Peruvian Amazon in particular have to offer from an education perspective. So it's anchored in place. It's full of moments of awe. We explore the rainforest from top to bottom in this program. Our days are full. We start early and we keep going. In addition, lots of time also dedicated to getting teachers talking and collaborating about how to bring this experience back home to their classrooms. We often are at grade level in working groups, and sometimes we're in mixed grade level working groups, depending on what the topic of the day or of the workshop is. A typical schedule. Oh, I should also point out, of course, we learned from our indigenous partners on the ground too. This is Victorino doing a forest walk and talking to us about where they get the thatch to make their thatch roofs. So hands-on, literally on the ground in the Amazon. And then the typical day, early morning wildlife watching, morning field workshop with classroom connections, PM field workshop, roundtable dinner discussions or pre-dinner discussions to bring even more topics into the conversation. And these can range from master talks with some of our faculty. Maybe it's on primates, maybe it's on herps, maybe it's on place-based education or the 5E lesson model. All of those things are woven into the field program at various different times during the day. Okay, Andrew, are you here? Hopefully.
I'm here.
Excellent. Andrew is one of our alumni from last year who joined us from New York City. He's a kindergarten teacher at the town school. And we just wanted Andrew to take a couple of minutes to tell you what his takeaway from his participation in the Educator Academy last summer.
All right. It's definitely hard to boil it down to just one takeaway. I think the general sentiment at the end of the trip was that no phrase other than life-changing would describe what we were experiencing there. Um, but on a very small scale, I took all of my kindergartners to Central Park today with binoculars in their hands, and I had all the parents downloading the Merlin app, and we got into birding and embraced the migration season. And by the end of the experience there, the kids were identifying blue jays and cardinals by sound. And so that's just one little nugget of passion that I brought from the time in the Amazon that is already influencing my teaching on a much greater level. Simply being able to talk with people about the Amazon is not just a big green mass on a map, but actually a place that we've experienced real relationships. We've met real people on the ground. Some of these communities we visited were mind blowing because this is their entire world. Is this little place on a map that we previously didn't pay attention to? So we walked away from everything from this absolute devotion to wildlife and nature and to hands-on education to this greater concept of human beings and conservation and how we are all involved in that. So I could go on and on, as you might be able to tell, but many of the people in my life have already had to experience that. It's something that cannot be put into words, but that was my best attempt.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you, Andrew. That's great. Very much. Thank you. Appreciate you sharing. Next
Yeah.
up, we've got Octay, who's coming to us from Columbus, Ohio. So, Octay, you want to jump in and share your reflections on your participation?
Sure. Thank you, guys. Hello. So I'm going to be sharing two things here, and I think those of you who listened to me before, I hope it won't be repetitive. But the first thing that I wanted to say is that when you're in that place, well, before you arrive, you say, "I know a lot of things." I'm from the administrative point of view. I am, and my entire life is about STEM. And then I said, well, I did not know anything about anything. I've been trained in biology as a biologist. I have done as a researcher, and I whole my life. But when you're in the place that is overwhelmingly biodiverse and then all the information is coming every parts of the way, you're like, you don't know anything, just better be learning. And then the timing you spend there is fully packed early in the morning all the way up to the night. And then you have like a little bit of sleep. Well, at least in my case, I have a little bit of sleep because I wanted to get as much as I can. That was my first thing. Two, before I got there, I said, well, what is it that is missing in my STEM toolkit? The thing that I proposed was I want to learn from the indigenous people. A lot of the information that is lacking in the Western science, where was amazed the information that they share with me. And I keep constantly journaled it. And then I think a lot of every sentence that I jot down is going to help me and my school community in a way that no one thought about it. So, again, as Andrew said, I can talk on and on, but I think if I pick these two things, that would be enough for my entire life. And then if you go there, it will be, I assure you, is one of the best professional development, both personally and professionally. It would be one of the best investment you can make, and you will have a lifelong the ideas and information that we won't last anytime, any soon. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Octay and Andrew. Those stories help a lot. And yeah, have been so fortunate over the years. We just have some of the finest educators in this space that join us in the field. So thank you both for sharing your reflections on the Educator Academy. So again, Educator Academy is July 1 through 10. The full syllabus is available online. And I'm also available for questions. And speaking of questions, please use the Q&A. If you have questions and you want to ask them, please just use the question and answer feature in the webinar to get those questions into the chat, and then we will get those answered. So the inquiry process drives the Educator Academy. We actually use a really wonderful resource from the Pacific Education Institution or Institute. It's their Field Investigations Lab. We have a partnership with Pocket Labs, so we use Pocket Labs while we're in the field. We also work with, and I'll introduce some of the faculty later, Christy and Jess, who collectively are known as the Bug Chicks. They are on-demand entomologists, but they also specialize in social emotional learning. Certainly, we take full advantage of the ecology and the natural history and the cultural connections and the indigenous perspective. So it is a very interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary professional development, place-based inquiry program. So next up, we're going to talk about the Amazon Research Initiative for Educators. As I mentioned, this is a newer program. We started this officially in 2023, and 23 and 24, we had it basically in pilot mode. And then last year, after sort of field testing some ideas about what this program would look like, we officially launched it as a full standalone program for Morpho. So the theme of the ARI program, we call it ARI affectionately, is monitoring biodiversity in a changing world. This program is set up to take advantage of the 4,000 acre private reserve where our study sites are located. And these study sites are where a lot of foundational neotropical research was done back in the 80s and 90s. And so we're bringing teachers into that space with specialists, with faculty and researchers, and we're starting to look at that site as a monitoring site for biodiversity and changes. This program also puts conservation in context. We are bringing in more and more Indigenous voices into this space as well. In this program, we are also aligning this with the IUCN Education for Conservation Goals and the UN Biodiversity Framework targets. So more about that coming later. We've got some webinars that will be coming up. And I do see a question in there. Rachel's asking, how large are the groups? We top off at right around 24, 25 in each group. And we do that for a number of reasons. One, quality control. That's a sweet spot for us. That number of teachers gives us a nice diverse group of teachers across grade level and across content. And we also only have so many mosquito nets. The places where we go are remote, and so we don't have capacity for a lot more people in those programs. So back to ARI. Some examples of some of the projects that we've done in the past. We've set up survey plots to measure abiotic factors in the rainforest and growth rates in the rainforest. We've done, in this case, Nancy Troutman from Cornell Lab of Ornithology is putting up a acoustic monitoring. So we're beginning to look at what happens in a succession plot. So teachers are learning how to go in and set up a succession plot using standard protocols for those kinds of field studies, which they could easily take back home. We also work with specialists. This is Lindsay Swerk from University of Binghamton, New York State, and she's a herpetologist. And so one of her first projects was looking at predation rates on Amazon reptiles and using clay models to do that work. So actually setting up an experiment and a modeling protocol to track predation rates. So just some examples. Every year, the projects change. It depends on what faculty are going to be involved and what the priorities are for the research team. In this case, this is for the last 3 years, we've done foundational orchid bee surveys. Orchid bees are these brilliant, beautiful little bees that pollinate orchids, and they have a very complex mating protocol, which involves gathering scents from orchids and other sources in the rainforest to attract mates. And so teachers did the very first physical surveys of orchid bees in this private reserve. those specimens have been deposited in a research museum in Lima. So this program definitely focuses on tropical ecology and tropical ecology research and how to do that and engaging teachers in that kind of work. Again, as Oktay hinted about, it's hard to put into words just how full our days are. But we get up early and we get going in both of these programs. So there's always early morning wildlife monitoring or watching or observing or just being enraptured by. Breakfast, of course, and then we have field work in different research teams depending on what the research topics are going to be. You'll get put into those research teams and have some selection after registration about which research track you'll be put into. And then again, afternoon is full of field work and data processing and working on field reports and the like. We take advantage of the expert faculty that we have, again, for these roundtable pre-dinner discussions and master talks. And then if everybody's still standing, there's always a night activity, either a night hike or a night boat ride, just to take full advantage of the rainforest that we have the privilege of working in for 10 days in each of these programs. So I wanted to have two participants from our ARI program share some of their reflections on this program as well. And actually, both of these teachers have actually participated in the Educator Academy as well. So first off, Cinda, if you're there, can you jump on and just give some reflection on your story and being part of these programs?
Sure. I'm Cinda Murray. I used to teach in Pennsylvania, and now I teach in Geronimo, Oklahoma, in a really small rural school that's in a small town. I teach grades 8 through 12, and I am the sole science teacher at my high school. So I'm the only one. So I am a silo, and I have to tell you, I am so grateful for the professional learning community that exists through Morpho, because you never truly isolated once you do this program. As Chris has said, you are Morpho for life, and you can return. So if you do RE, you can go back and take Educator Academy. If you do Educator Academy, you can do RE. You can do RE multiple times, Educator Academy multiple times. I do want to say that RE is a place-based experiential learning experience, and you are embedded in inquiry and design. It's like you're getting the behind the scenes look at how the experiments are developed and the passion and the insight that the researcher has. So you're on that from the beginning as things are being designed. And I think the thing that blew my mind was the fact that the researchers and the experts in the fields actually listen and have these inclusive conversations where you get to ask questions and help even design the experiment. And if you've not, depending upon how you came to the science classroom, you may or may not have ever had that research component. And this is going to give you those tools that you need to do those independent research projects then with students when you get home. So it's a phenomenal, again, you're living it, you're living inquiry design. I think one of the hardest decisions is deciding whether or not you want to do the night walk or you want to go to bed so you can get up really early and do the bird watching in the morning on the campus. So those are tough decisions. But I highly recommend that you do it. I want to say that the long-term projects too that we're working on, because some of the projects I think are in like their third year, give you a sense of that continuation of science research where you're actually building on the research that was done prior to you. And so rarely do we get that experience as high school teachers where we're actually contributing to something that's going to be that you're building upon, and then it's going forward in time. So that's a phenomenal thing. Once you know, you know. So once you've been there and you've seen it, then you know that you absolutely made the right decision to attend the workshop. You definitely will be transformed over the time. And it's different every year. So if you've gone before and you want to come back, the people that are there will definitely make the experience very unique and deepen your knowledge of that Amazon experience. So I highly recommend. I've done a lot of professional development. This one's top notch. There's the pre-course there's the experience there, and then there's this absolutely incredible professional development community that you're part of for life. So I can't say enough good about it.
Thanks, Cinda. Yeah, and it's wonderful that you've been in both programs, so you can really like, if people want to reach out, we can, answer more questions along those lines too. And Cinda actually has been foundational. She helped, she was on one of the pilot RE programs and helped us really pull that together. We really value teacher input. We are an education community. So this is definitely not top down. This is a community where we build this learning experience together. Okay, Julie, if I can have Julie talk next. Julie's right here in the middle of this picture in the white shirt. So Julie, are you there?
Yeah, hi Krista. Hi
Hi,
everybody.
Julie.
Hey, I'm Julie Rivenbark. I'm a biology teacher. I also teach in a pretty small rural school district in Virginia on the east coast of the state. So I came to the Educator Academy for the first time in 2024. Absolutely fell in love with Morpho and the program and had a great time. And I left there knowing that I had to come back for RE. Research has always been my jam and the thing that I would love to do more often. So I knew I had to come back and find that experience with RE and do that research on the ground. But I like to say that Morpho has been like nothing short of life changing for me as well, just because of those experiences that I've had at both programs. As a biologist, I went into the Educator Academy just excited to be in the Amazon and experience the biodiversity and the indigenous people and learn as much as I could. But you end up leaving with so much more than that, more than just the biodiversity. The connections that you make are truly nothing short of life changing for me, both personally and professionally. Like as a teacher, I've brought back so much information for my students and so many ideas and networks and professional learning networks. I'm also the only, not the only science teacher in my district, but the only biology teacher anywhere close to me. So it's nice to have that community. But also just the other professional connections. So since going to RE this summer, I have made a lot of connections. I'm actually working towards getting my PhD, hopefully in the next couple of years. So I've made some connections from Morpho that I never would have if I didn't become a part of this organization. And I'm just so grateful for that and so excited for the future and to start doing research more full time. And Morpho has really given me like the confidence and the experience to know that the research world is where I belong and I fit in, and that's just something I never would have found without them. So I just can't say enough good things, and I don't want to talk forever because I could as well. But
Thanks, Julie. Super excited about the connection that you just made with Jeshua too. I think, yeah, fingers crossed on that one. That'll be amazing. Jess was one of our guest faculty out of University of Wisconsin. She came down a year ago for RE, and anyway, small world. It's amazing how small world it is. I do see that we've got questions from Rebecca and Mary, and we'll get to those in a second. No worries. Let me just wrap up on this little bit about RE. So one of the questions that's in the chat right now is, I'm really torn about what program to do. And so I will ask towards the end if we can have some of the alumni reflect, especially those of you that have done multiple programs, on which one is really best for you. The setting is the same. You're in the same physical space. You have access to, an amazing, and I'll talk about the physical setting here in a minute, but really the Educator Academy is designed to be more of an experience, a interdisciplinary experience. So we cover a lot of bases during that program. It is definitely through the lens of building inquiry skills, and putting you back in the role of being a student and a learner in that space. So we spend, the program evolves in, we talk about how to develop inquiry. We put you into that space, talk about how to do age appropriate field studies, all of those kinds of things with students. And we have a big, several days in community to really bring in that cultural geography lens into that space as well. The RE program, the research program, again, takes advantage of those exact same location, but it is most definitely designed and modeled after a National Science Foundation research experience for teachers. It is set up so that you are developing actual field research skills with data processing, writing field reports, working in tandem with field researchers who are collecting data that will be either deposited into Peruvian collections, or the data will be used to write actual reports. The program is new enough that we don't have any research protocol or research reports actually published yet, like in journals, but those are coming, and those will be done by the lead researchers, but the teachers that are on those teams will be listed as co-authors on that. So it is definitely research focused. I do want to say, however, is don't be afraid of that if you are an elementary educator. We had a librarian with us last summer that for Ari that teaches fourth grade, and Erica was like the most dedicated research person on the team. So it is open to K-12. There's nothing to prevent an elementary teacher from getting into this space, thriving, doing well. So don't let imposter syndrome or anything like that, or don't let the idea that maybe this is really more ideally suited for high school teachers. It's not. But as Cinda pointed out, if you didn't ever get those research skills, if you came into education and science education without that, this can be a way to do that. So hopefully that helps a little bit of answering that. And Mary and Ashlyn, I will get your questions. I've got them tagged, so we'll take a look at those. So again, 2 programs, Educator Academy in the Amazon, July 1 through 10, Amazon Research Initiative, July 11 through 20. Also, just one more shout out. The syllabus are online, or syllabi are online for both of these programs. I'll drop some of those links in the chat towards the end so you can have those and go directly to them. Much deeper dive and probably help, spending some time reading through those. Each syllabus will really help you understand too, kind of the direction that those programs are taking. Okay, let's get to some of the fun stuff too. Like, where do we actually do this? Where do we pull all this off? So we do this in the Peruvian Amazon. Peru is on the westerly side of South America, and this little arrow up here is where we do all of our work. You will have to fly into Lima, which is down here, and then take another small flight to get out to our study sites. And we'll get in more detail on all of that a little later. But basically, this is our little sphere of influence. We are working in this area right here. The river is the major way that people get around currently in this part of the Amazon. You'll see there are no roads currently in this part of the world. So what that means is that we're operating in fairly intact forests, and we're part of a study project and working with our indigenous partners and hoping to ensure that stays this way. So we partner with an organization called Explorama. They've been working in Peru for 60 years, and their lodges are what we use. It's where we sleep. They feed us well. They move us around. They take care of all of the on-the-ground logistics and operations so that we can stay focused on education and professional development. So the usual first stop especially for Educator Academy, is at Explorama Lodge, located right on the Amazon River. This is a typical Amazon lodge, thatched roofs, screened in rooms. In this particular lodge, you actually have a bathroom attached to your room. But our real gem, where we spend most of our time, is out here at Explorama's Axe Peru field station, because it's adjacent to this very large Maihuna Quichua Regional Conservation Area. And this is where that 4,000 acre biological reserve is, where we're anchoring all of our field studies, both for the Educator Academy and for ARI. So again, the locations are the same, so no FOMO on that part. You're going to get to see both of those. AXE stands for the Amazon Conservatory for Tropical Studies, and this is it's a field station. It is a classic South American field station. Thatched roofs, rooms are open to the Amazon. Everybody sleeps under mosquito nets. We have latrines and cold showers, but believe me, on a hot day in the Amazon, those cold showers don't feel cold at all. So yeah, you're going to be living part of your time when you're in the Amazon with us, regardless of which program you're on. You're going to be living the life in a field station where the nature's quite close, and yeah, it's pretty extraordinary. I know it's why people keep coming back. And again, we take advantage of what this study site has to offer. We do field studies and projects on the forest floor. We work in cohorts. We get up into this magnificent canopy walkway. And again, this is another reason why this site is so special and so ideally suited for these professional development programs. And it's why we choose to spend the amount of time we spend in place because we have access to this canopy walkway. There's actually 14 platforms with connecting bridges, which gives us unprecedented access to the most biodiverse part of the whole Amazon system, the canopy. So we are able, because of where we stay and the relationship that we have with Explorama, to be up and down in this canopy walkway multiple times over the course of several days. For the Educator Academy, it's about 2.5 days where you have complete access. For Ari, it's the entire time that you're in the field, with the exception of a day or two in our Maihuna community. So it's just absolutely astonishing and awe-inspiring, and it's a great place for research and all of this. So yeah, super site, and I'm sure our alumni could weigh in on all of that too, and we'll ask them to do that at the end. Big question though, let's go back to that idea that we are a conservation education organization, and we constantly ask ourselves, what is our role? And are we really making a difference? We do not want to be an organization where we go to the Amazon, pop in or parachute in, do our thing, and then leave. We put the Morpho Institute as a nonprofit with the goal of making a difference on the ground. We have a number of partners that we work with in Peru that you will get to meet, but I want to spotlight the big one. Our partnership with the Maihuna goes back to 2015. We got wind that they were going to be given legal rights to their ancestral lands, and that conservation area now that they are the stewards of is about 2 million acres, which is about the size of Yosemite. And that conservation area is adjacent to the smaller private reserve where the walkway and the field station are located. So we got involved with the Maihuna early on when they were looking. This is an example of one of their communities, just absolutely lovely. But they wanted to get out of the logging business, number one. They had some real issues with loggers. They had lost a lot of their game meat. Their rivers had been decimated. So they were looking for alternative ways to support themselves and create a sustainable future for themselves and for their children. And one of the things they wanted to do is they wanted to get into the business of ecotourism. So we were literally at the table as they were making this decision, saying, hey, we have an ideal audience for you. It's teachers. Can we co-create some workshops that would showcase and spotlight your conservation work, your indigenous ways of knowing, and just life in an indigenous community in the Amazon that's fighting for its survival? And so both programs have an opportunity to get into this community of Sukasari, which is at the base of the conservation area, to meet with our conservation partners and workshop leaders and learn more about the Amazon, putting it in context. So it's a really powerful part of the program, and we're really proud to have done that work and continue to do that work hand in hand with our Maihuna friends and partners. And the reason that this is so important to us is because the conservation that their work is actually taking hold, and it's making a difference. One of the workshops they share with us is their indigenous beekeeping workshop. This started off as a small operation where they were going to be harvesting sustainably stingless bee honey. It's highly prized for its medicinal properties. So they were really just started this with the idea that we can do this, we want to learn how to do this, and then we can sell the honey. What that's evolved into is not only workshops for our teachers, the Maihuna are now working across Peru and even in other parts of the Amazon to teach this husbandry to other indigenous groups who are looking for a sustainable source of income. So you get to see and learn firsthand from these stingless bee leaders while you're in the field. In addition, we get to work with some of the women, and this is Marina. who's leading a cooking demonstration. And what happened before going into her home to learning about their cooking and preparation of fish is we were out on the river, and her husband and the other men were talking about how they harvest fish and what species they're looking for, and some of the issues that they've had over the years with loggers coming in and decimating their river system, and how it's recovering and the exciting things that they're seeing in that recovery. So the workshops are rich and impactful and super important because there's actually a road being proposed that would bisect this conservation area. We get into a lot of this conversation when we're in the field, but as you can imagine, roads are not great. And when you get them into these pristine areas, they fishbone out with development. So the impact will be wide ranging in this conservation area. So part of our work with the Mahuna is to empower educators to also share their story and learn how to share that story appropriately and not appropriate it. And so that's part of the learning that goes on there as well. So, and part of your program fees actually go to this work. We offset your carbon of the flight, and that offset donation for each of your flights actually goes to the Mahuna Federation to help them fight this road. So we're always looking for how can we increase our impact? How can we help teachers increase their impact? And what does that look like? And so all of these things are built into the field programs when you're with us. So let me just take a quick pop into the questions. Okay. Okay, thank you, Sandy. I think you've been answering some of them in the chat. I appreciate that very much. I think we're doing good so far. Nora, I'll pop back in and talk about high school calculus teacher. And then also it is first come, first serve to get registered and join the program. We also, and I'll talk about this in a minute, we have a separate scholarship application where you can apply for funding through the Morpho Institute, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But I want to real quick just give you an idea of some of the caliber of the people that are involved in this. Morpho was founded by myself, Nancy Troutman, who's the Emeritus Director of Education for Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and Dr. Kelly Keena, who now works for Underwriters Laboratory, but she's an environmental educator researcher that specializes in environmental education assessment. Ro Ruiz is our board president. She comes to us with a background in land and also environmental education and outdoor spaces. She actually got her doctorate after being involved in the Educator Academy, and her doctorate was around transformational professional development experiences. She's also what I like to call our awe advisor. And she does a whole workshop on awe and what's actually happening from a neuro perspective for you when you're in the Amazon as well as your students. I also have, I think both Amanda and Sandy are online, so I'll give them just a moment to share. Amanda, if you're on, you want to jump in and just say hey and provide a little insight on your Morpho journey?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Amanda Rowland, and I'm answering some of the questions in the chat too, Krista.
Thank
So
you.
I first went down as an informal educator. I'm a park ranger. So a lot of my education is outdoor classroom and partnering with formal educators. And so I had a really great opportunity to go down in 2013. I also went by a scholarship. I was able to get a grant to create curriculum, and I went in my own time. So I was able to take that time off and go through that scholarship, and really stayed in contact with Krista and the board. And, Morpho is actually metamorphosized, since I've known it, into a nonprofit now. So really trying to connect teachers to the Amazon or students to the Amazon and facilitate that connection. So that's been super helpful for me. And then had the opportunity to join Ro, Krista, Kirsten, and the rest of the board, Nancy, all the amazing folks. And so last summer I had a chance to go down for the first time since 2013, and that was really incredible. So got to see both programs. So yeah, really excited and super happy to be in this space with you all. And I think continue to ask those questions, and we'll try to answer them as much as possible. I think the other thing too is if you're thinking about going, apply. I think a lot of times we start to like, oh, should I do this or should I do that? But apply, and then there's a lot of different scholarship opportunities out there. But if you don't put the application in, then that's like the primary step. So we really need to make sure that you get those applications in. So Krista, with that, I'll hand it back to you. Thank you.
Great, and I'll address some of the questions that are popping up there right now about scholarships and registration and the difference between those things. And Sandy, you want to jump in and give a little, Sandy's our brand new program coordinator. Woohoo! So she's officially joined the Morpho team, but she has a long and storied history in the Amazon. So Sandy, you want to say hey?
Hi, everybody. I'm Sandy Ellsbury. I teach elementary science in Kansas City, Missouri. So I teach 1st through 5th graders, just science content, and always been try to be like a place-based science inquiry for the students to keep it live and going in the classroom. Started traveling to the Amazon in 2000. First with my daughter, who that was just a big interest of her and she wanted to go. And then I continued to take student groups for quite some year up to through COVID, but always was trying to figure out what to do more, or what more to do, I guess I should say that. And I met Krista by chance because she moved to Kansas City and through mutual people in Peru. And so then I started going down. I've been to the Educator Academy the last 2 years. And saw a little bit of Ari the first year I was there, which was very exciting. A little sad I didn't get to see it last summer, but that's okay. So I will be there in the field with you guys as, I don't know, Krista calls it the program coordinator. So I'm not taking all that credit. All these people on the board have done a lot of work and set things up, but I will definitely be a person that will be chatting with you in Canvas Core, sending emails, seeing you in the airport or at the, First People in Iquitos and all of that, and downriver. So great program that's challenging me to continue to put sustainability and conservation into my young children's minds and ideas. And connecting that, first of all, with animals of the Amazon is huge for them. Capybaras and sloths are their favorite animals and have been for years. So when I can throw a picture up that I see one, they just think that's amazing. And just teaching them a little bit about the Mahuna as well and the challenges that they've gone through, and helping them to understand what that would look like for them, and trying to make it more real and something that they can take on as they go forward in life.
Great, thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome.
I'm going to quickly move through some of the other faculty. It depends on people come in and out of these programs. Lindsay Swerk is at University of Binghamton, and Katie Filan's at Miami of Ohio. So they're bringing in background with herpetology and primatology, as well as community-based conservation. These two are actually on our board as well. We also work with Jess Honecker and Christy Reddick, known as the Bug Chicks, entomologists and social emotional learning experts. We have exceptional faculty from some amazing research institutions. Rob Nasky has helped us build the ARI program. He's a botanist. He's actually the curator of North American botany for New York Botanical Garden. So we have a really wonderful group of faculty. The spotlight, however, we absolutely count our guides as faculty. They are on the team. They are the local knowledge. They put us to shame with everything that they know, both ecologically as well as just that cultural first person. This is my home. And they bring that to the equation. So a super important part of the team that you will be learning from along the way. In addition, of course, our Indigenous community partners, we've already talked about that, a big part of our programming. And then most importantly, you all. So I have two more people that I want to have just say a few words, and then we'll get very much into the scholarship, travel, health, all that kind of stuff before we wrap this up. So first off, I want to introduce Samia Afrin, who joined us for the Educator Academy last year and is also a Fund for Teachers Fellow. So Samia, if you're there, you want to jump on and say a few words?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Samia. I teach in Brooklyn, in New York City Department of Education. Um, I don't know where to begin. It's just so many lessons. Picking one lesson is really hard, but if I really have to choose, um, yeah, there are so many professional development, beside professional development, I want to speak the personal development. Um, I've never traveled alone by myself before this, so that was a huge step. But after going to Peru, it's a whole new world. Like lot of the things I have done for the first time in my life. I have a huge fear of height, but I was able to go to the canopy walk with the help of Sandy. So thank you so much, Sandy. I have never touched any bugs because I have always scared of bugs. But because of the two awesome people, um, I touched so many bugs, including tarantula, that I'll never forget in my life. Um, and there are just so many great things in this program, and the people. I'm not gonna be emotional, but the people that are surrounded by in 10 days, they're just amazing. They're just amazing people. I wish we have more people like this in this world, and I know that would make our world a better place. They're just so supportive. Like you'll never feel that. I never felt like, even though I never done a lot of things for the first time, but the people are just there to support me, and it never felt to me that okay, I'm doing this for the first time. um, and they shared their knowledge so freely, and they're so knowledgeable. And it's not about the faculties, also the educators I met from all over the American. One educator also was from Canada. So many knowledge everyone have, and they share with each other. Yeah, I can talk again more and more, but I'll stop here.
Thank you, Samia, very much. And yeah, you did conquer a lot of fears last summer, and it was a privilege to get to be part of that. So thank you for sharing. And then Steve, you want to jump on, Steve, and just talk a little bit about your experience and just a nod to the Fund for Teachers element too.
Yes. Yes. So I've always been fascinated with the Amazon. It's one of the most biodiverse ecosystems on Earth, and I always wanted to have that firsthand experience. And as you can see there on the canopy, that's probably one of my most favorite parts of this was be able to feel the immensity and the interconnectedness of the Amazon just from up there and just to see it all. And that's the whole thing about it, like the all, like what the Amazon and Amazing have in common is they're both astonishing. And you will be in awe when you go through these experiences. Um, this is something that you can't get at home, you can't watch on a video. You have to actually be in the Amazon to experience have these experiences. And the staff at Morpho, they put together a phenomenal program. It's authentic. You feel like a scientist. You feel like you feel like an observer. You feel like you're part of the indigenous communities. You feel like all of it. And it's just amazing that you can get that experience from just 10 days in the Amazon. But it feels like a long time, but yet it goes by so fast and so many things happen. And you really get to learn really about yourself. Um, I guess for me, really, the kind of the big transformation for me is I keep talking about all is I brought it back to my classroom. I teach forensics, and I mean the students are generally curious about that anyway. But I'm more focused on giving them the wonder, the curiosity, the connectedness of it. And you learn that in the workshops when you're down in the Amazon about what you can bring back to your classroom. And there's something for everybody. It's not just high school. It's not just elementary. It's not just art teachers, not just science teachers. There's something for everybody in the Amazon, and you will learn that. You will find the one thing that really, truly makes it life changing for you and transforms that. And you go home. This will follow you for the rest of your life. This Morpho network Krista wasn't kidding. This is something it's life. You're going to be part of this network for many years to come afterwards. And it really does give you that personal growth and that professional growth as well. And I was a Fund for Teachers applicant, and I was able to I was awarded what Fund for Teachers is it's a fellowship program that you apply for. It's a pretty big application process, but once you awarded it, you get $5,000 to apply towards this program, and that was very, very helpful, especially for people that are struggling to put the money together. Whatever you got to do, make it work. And just like Amanda was saying, the first step is apply and go for it. Like apply now, get in there, and then make the money work. You'll find a scholarship, you'll find something that will come along because this is one of those life-changing opportunities that will not come knocking again.
Oh, thanks, Steve. I'll touch on this when we talk about the scholarship stuff, but Steve's gonna head up a Q&A for any teachers that potentially want to apply for a Fund for Teachers fellowship. So we provide that support too, because we've had a lot of Fund for Teachers fellows over the years. So you'll be hearing more from Steve about all that too. Okay, real quick. I shouldn't be real quick, but I'm going to blow through this. It's not just 10 days in the Amazon. It's more than just packing your bags. It's this incredible community we keep talking about, over 300 of us. It is also a resource kit that you'll get that's part of your program fees that includes field guides and field investigation handbooks and an inquiry kit, your very own limited edition Morpho hat. All of that's included in your program fees. It's also an 8-module Canvas course that we will open in December, and we will release modules. And this is designed to help you not only build background knowledge about where you're going, but also start priming the pump for how you bring this back home. So the program fees include all of this, and the prep course is a vital part of the program. We pace it out to make it reasonable for you to get through that from December through May or December through June. So it's not a burden. And it's also a really great way for you to get to know people you'll be traveling with through that pre-departure course. And that's the same for both the Educator Academy and for ARI. So all the programs, while they're different, how we support you in those programs is very much the same. So travel and logistics. So let's get into the nitty-gritties here. Program fees are divided into 2 parts. The total cost of the program without airfare is on your own and separate, is $3,300. $825 of that you pay directly to Morpho, and that covers the curriculum, the course, the resources, and the on-site facilitation on the ground, and then the network that you're part of for Infinity and beyond. Travel and logistics are handled by our partner, EcoTeach. So the land costs from the moment you arrive in Iquitos, Peru, those land costs are all covered. All of your meals, all your transportation. You are literally picked up at the airport, taken to an overnight accommodation where you'll meet up with your colleagues, get on a boat. That's all arranged. You are handled from the minute you get into Iquitos. You can choose to come into Iquitos early or stay late if you want to do some exploring on your own. But as far as the official program goes, you're covered from the start of the program, literally until they get you back to the airport in Iquitos to head home. So we've been doing this for a long time. And we've got a really good team here in the United States to be supportive when it comes to helping answer questions about travel and flights. And EcoTeach handles a lot of that for us, and we'll work with you directly on helping you make sure all those arrangements are done correctly. As Sandy will also be an excellent resource for that as well. The payment schedule. So put scholarships aside for a moment. In order to be added to the roster, you must submit your registration form and you must submit your deposit, your $125 deposit to the Morpho Institute. That will put you on the roster. And then that triggers a whole cascade of things where you get invited to the MorphoNet online community, you get access to the Canvas course, you get all of those things. And then from that point of registration, the balance payment for Morpho will be due no later than April 1st. And then for EcoTeach, once you get registered with Morpho, you'll have a non-refundable travel deposit to start that process in play as far as making the travel arrangements. And then, of course, all of this is communicated frequently, monthly. These reminders will go out about how all of these payments and things go. But that's basically, there's 2 organizations you're going to be working with. So think of Morpho as the education PD side. We stay in our lane and we do that lane really, really well. And then we partner with EcoTeach to handle all of the travel stuff and support you in that work. They can answer questions about travel insurance. They can answer questions about flights and extending your stay and what about Machu Picchu and all those kinds of things. They'll be the ones that will help be responsible for that. Scholarship and funding. Within Morpho, we do offer a series of scholarships and funding. As someone who is, if you are interested in joining this program and you know you want to make this work, we still need you to fill out your registration form. We still need you to pay your deposit, but you are also eligible to apply for this funding. By going ahead and registering and paying your deposit, you are guaranteed a spot on the roster no matter what funding you get or don't get. So if you know for sure you want to do this and it's worth making the investment in that deposit, you can and should still apply for funding with the Morpho Institute. We've changed our model for this year, and so we have a common app for both programs, and you'll indicate when you fill out the scholarship application which program you want to participate in, whether it's the Educator Academy or the research program. And then based on the caliber and quality of your responses to the questions, we will be awarding scholarships and fellowships, $3,000, $2,000, and $1,000. I'm going to drop the links in the chat here momentarily for the scholarship and funding page where this is all laid out in great detail, including a rubric and all of that. So on Wednesday, on October 1st at 12 o'clock, the actual registration form will go live for Educator Academy and for ARI. And you'll fill out that form, and that's basically just like your name, your address, your email, when's your birthday, all of those important things to register for the program, the terms and conditions, all that stuff. And then there'll be a button that says pay your deposit. Pay your deposit, you're on the roster, you're good to go. If you opt not to pay your deposit, we still would like you to fill out that registration form because we will put you on what I'm going to just call the waiting list. Because by not paying your deposit, you're going to hold off and say, well, I can't do this and I don't want to do this until I know for sure I have the money. That's fine. That's your choice. But know that that doesn't guarantee you a spot on the roster if you decide later on that you want to join us and you don't have funding. You can go ahead and apply for the Morpho Scholarship. That application for the scholarship funding is obviously separate than the registration form. That also will go live on the 1st. That needs to be submitted by the 15th, and we will let people know if they have received a fellowship or a scholarship from Morpho no later than December 15th. So 2 processes. Again, drop questions in the chat if that's not clear. But by completing the registration form and paying your deposit, you're guaranteed a spot on the roster, regardless of funding outcomes. If you don't want to do that, pay that registration or a deposit, go ahead and please complete the registration form. Just know, and you'll get an email saying, thanks for registering. We're putting you on the waiting list pending funding. And then depending on where you are on that waiting list, if there's room, you'll be able to fit in there. We've, again, been doing this long enough that we have an idea of how many Fund for Teachers fellows we might get. We have an idea of how many people that apply for fellowships will be people that are already paid their deposit and those that haven't. So we know how to do this. And so it really comes down to you deciding whether you want to proceed. And as a lot of the alumni have said, just go for it. The money, you've got support to help you figure out where that money is going to come from. The Fund for Teachers part, that is another excellent opportunity. As Steve mentioned, that's a $5,000 award. So typically that will cover all of your program fees, your travel fees with Morpho, and your flight. In some cases, depending on what your flight costs are, there might even be some money left over for you to go ahead and think about doing Machu Picchu on top of that. And so that's a whole nother conversation. You know, Machu Picchu is an option. There will be information for people that have registered about that. Fund for Teachers also has a very different calendar for when that application is due, and when you find out about that. Again, we have known and are friendly with Fund for Teachers. We've had lots of Fund for Teachers. So as long as we know you're applying, we will work with you on that, knowing that you won't find out whether you're a Fund for Teachers fellows until the end of March, beginning of April. Good news is that thanks to Steve, who raised his hand, he's going to have an information and a Q&A session about Fund for Teachers specifically on Monday, November 17th. And so we have a whole cadre of Fund for Teachers fellows that will mentor anybody who's interested in applying for that. That application is more rigorous than the Morpho application for funding. Although the Morpho application, we do ask you, to be really reflective about how you're going to bring this experience, or how you think you're going to bring this experience back to your classroom. So taking some time and jumping into those applications as soon as possible. Your Morpho one can also, I would think, support your Fund for Teachers fellows as well, if you're going to apply for both of those. So I'm going to drop into the chat real quick. Find the chat. There it is. I'm going to drop a whole series of links in there for you right now. So you have to go over to the chat, not the Q&A. So I've got the main Morpho website on there. The professional development landing page. Somebody was asking, well, where is the registration form going to be? It's going to be on that PD landing page, and you'll have to go into either Educator Academy or ARI to get the right registration form for those programs. The scholarship and funding, all of that's laid out on our scholarship and funding page, and then the link for the sign up for the Fund for Teachers meetup. I will also be sending out an email to everybody that registered and attended, and I'll include all of these links in there as well. So I'm going to hit the 3 questions that are currently in the chat. Are scholarship applications reviewed on a rolling basis, or will the review period not start until the deadline? We will be reviewing internally, but we will not be making any final decisions until all applications are in. So there won't be any advance notification about that until everybody will find out on or before December 15th, whether they got a scholarship or fellowship with Morpho or they didn't. Yeah, if you're applying for an NEA grant, I remember you, Rebecca. That's great. Good luck. Best of luck. Yeah, I would also go ahead and apply for that just in case. Yes, especially if I think you mentioned you were applying for the early NEA submission, which is happening soon, I think. Then if you don't get that, you still could be in the running, I think, for a Morpho one. But yes, I would definitely go ahead and do that. Registration is noon Eastern time. Yes, ma'am, Eastern time. If we know we need funding and pay $150 to hold a spot and don't get funding, can we roll it to the next year? Charlie, we are an incredibly flexible organization, and my answer will be that we will work with you on trying to make that happen. Okay. Chat appears. Oh, shoot. Okay. Thanks, Nora. Let me just see if I can undo the chat. Let's see. I don't think I can. All right. I will.
Krista, can I copy and paste it into the question and answers? Would everybody see that?
I think so. Can you do that, Sandy?
I'm going to work on it.
All right, Sandy's going to do that. So any other questions that we can answer? I think I got Rachel's, Rebecca's, Charlie's, Nora. Okay. All right. I know I went over by 9 minutes. My apologies. We try really hard to not do that. Rachel, I believe that Fund for Teachers is classroom teachers only. It varies from state to state, and Steve can address some of that in the meetup that he's going to have. It varies from state to state which schools are eligible, because Fund for Teachers, I believe, uses a lot of different foundations across the nation to pool those funds together. Okay, any other questions we can answer for anybody? Otherwise, you will get an email from me tomorrow morning. Registration opens on the 1st at noon, and I sure hope we see some of you on that roster for both programs. Feel free to reach out. Once you get that email, I'm happy to answer questions as well. I'll try to throw up an office hour sometime this week too, if I can, to open up for questions. Okay. Okay. I think I'm good. Oh yeah. Got
I
it?
could not get it. I cannot see how to post for me to post in question and answers. I can only answer.
Okay. I apologize for that, you all. I will try to get an email out later tonight then that has those links in it real quick to everybody. And then in the meantime, go explore. Just go to morphoinstitute.org and it's all there. We have a really lovely website. I think it's pretty easy to navigate. So thanks everybody. Hopefully we'll get to see you on the roster. Have a good night.